The best. You've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com, the ChrisVossShow.com. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the big show. We certainly appreciate you guys tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the big circus tent in the sky, where we bring you the latest minds, the brilliant people, the billionaires, the White House advisors, you name it. They've been on the show. I mean, just every time I do this show, I learn something new, and I hope that my audience does as well. There's just so much you learn, and I'll just I think in the previous show, I learned a new term that expanded my mind. And the beautiful thing is, when you're smarter, you get this glow about you, this aura, and people go, "My God, that person is sexier." And you're like, what makes you so sexy and hot? And it just oozes off you like George Clooney. And I go, well, I was born that way. But for you, you're like, I listen to the Chris Voss Show. So there you go. And all the more to recommend it to your family, friends, and relatives, because if you have them good looking and sexy, well, you'll make good looking, sexy kids. I don't know what any of this means, but it's our shaming tactic that we use to do the plugs. Go to youtube.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss. Let's see. There's the big LinkedIn newsletter. You must subscribe to that. Goodreads.com. And we're on that new Threads and TikTok and whatever new social media they're starting this week. And we'll probably be out of business next week. We have an amazing gentleman on the show. He's a CEO. He's built his own company, and he's going to be talking to us about how he did that, how he became an entrepreneur, and some of the background, everything he does. If you're watching on YouTube, which I highly recommend you do, he's a big Indiana Colts fan of Peyton Manning, and he's got a whole plethora of Peyton Manning fandom behind him. So as a Raiders fan, I can appreciate Peyton Manning, his love of the game. So we've been having a nice chat about that. So if you get a chance, check out his wonderful thing there. And of course, we're trying to shame and plug you into watching it on YouTube as well. Craig Geisler is on the show with us today. He's the CEO of Cherrywood Enterprises. Cherrywood Enterprises is a national buyer of charged-off debt portfolios. I'm going to try to talk to him and charging off my ex-wife's debt. And they work with banks, credit unions, and auto lenders and commercial lenders. From there, they outsource their portfolios to a network of attorneys nationwide, and they are considered the premier debt buyer. Craig has worked in the debt arena since 2009 and been the CEO of Cherrywood Enterprises since 2012. He's married to his wife, Amy, and they live in West Palm Beach, Florida, and they have 4 kids. Welcome to the show, Craig. How are you?
Very good. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming. We certainly appreciate it. And with all the Indianapolis Colts football fandom behind you, hopefully we'll get some business stuff talked about here. The show might just evolve into football fandom, as it were. But give us your .com so people can find you on the internet, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Give us your .com so people can find you on the internet, please.
My apologies. It's cherrywoodenterprises.com.
There you go. And give us a 30,000 overview of what Cherrywood Enterprises does.
So Cherrywood Enterprises works, as you mentioned, with banks, credit unions, auto lenders, and commercial lenders. We purchase charged-off debt portfolios ranging from credit cards, overdraft, and auto deficiencies to commercial charge-offs, heavy equipment, you name it, we buy it.
There you go. So you guys work with, what did we say? We said banks and all these different things. Now you handle both ends of both debt buying and debt selling. And what got you down this road? What got you interested in this type of business?
Ironically enough, I fell into it. I was a mortgage broker for almost a decade. The market tanked here in South Florida. I was looking for something to do, and a company that trained me into doing what I do now brought me on board. I was there for 3.5 years. Things kind of went sideways with the company, and lo and behold, I launched Cherrywood, and it has been an amazing experience. Looking back on it, I got very lucky, But I think the notion of hard work and dedication pays off worked for me.
There you go. And that was an interesting interesting time. We're very similar in our background. I had a mortgage company for 20 years. And then 2008 came along and said, nah, it's not going to work out. And that and all of our other companies we own in our little empire. And so you made a nice transition to that. Was that the first time that you become a self-employed, a gentleman creating your own company and stuff like that?
It was a scary venture. And I've said it before. I'd say the first 2 years were the hardest, trying to establish the company and the good name, and obviously getting the word out there to other financial institutions that were around, and we purchased their debt portfolios. And before long, as I mentioned, the hard work and dedication paid off, and more and more of the financial institutions were calling, and it definitely paid off with just laying the groundwork and being consistent. And
Hmm.
the biggest thing is answering your phone. I know it sounds silly to say, but as the calls come in, a lot of people get rather lazy and they don't want to take the calls, and they don't want to have the 5 to 10 to 15-minute conversations with the different institutions.
Hmm.
And if you don't, I mean, that's really how you lay the groundwork, is just letting them know your story, who you are, where you came from. You do exist. You're not a fly-by-night company. And just doing that on a consistent basis and responding to emails very quickly. And even when the business hours are over, 5 o'clock does not come for me. It's 6, 7, 8, sometimes 9 o'clock, working with the Western U.S. bordered companies, and it's been a roller coaster, but it's been fun, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
What do you think is helped lead you to success as an entrepreneur? What are some of the tidbits of maybe things that stuck out to you and you felt made you successful? Because being successful as an entrepreneur is hard, especially in what that time and era, going through a transition like that where you got to pivot really hard.
Yeah, yeah. Again, it was just a lot of that was consistency, and I think the major thing is doing what you say you were going to do. So if you said you were going
Mhm.
to call it 3, you better darn well call 3. If you say you're going to have an answer for a company by 5 o'clock, you better do so. And even if I couldn't, if there was the odd opportunity that I wasn't able to get back to them at the time I scheduled, I at least responded and said, I'm still working on it. I haven't forgotten about you, but I'm going to get you the answer I promised you. And just doing that consistently and hard work and making the phone calls and, dare I say, kissing the babies, it all paid off. And of course, the other is going to conferences, meeting people face to face, shaking hands, introducing yourself. And I think a big part of being an entrepreneur is, one, you have to be humble. You
Mm.
can't be this, well, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm this guy that you need to talk to, and not the other way around. It doesn't
Yeah.
work that way. So being humbled, being gracious, kind of letting your story play out to who you are, why you are the way you are. And then again, the consistency with follow up and answering questions and just being and learning. And that's the main thing. And as you get the questions that are asked of you, if you don't have the answers, don't make one up. I mean, you just look stupid when we'll find out that you just gave them a bunch of crap. So
Mhm.
if you're going to be asked a question that you don't know, the proper response is always, I don't know. Let me research that and I'll get back to you. And then you do. And I think people respect the fact that you're not trying to give them a boatload of crap, but you're actually a guy that if he doesn't know the answer, will find it for you.
There you go. And so having that ability to be a good resource, you to manage your word, to stay with your word, stand with your word. There's a lot of flakiness in business nowadays. And then entrepreneurism has a tendency to kind of keep you humble. At least it did for me until I got a big head later in years. But for the early years, it kept me humble when we were still eating humble pie and living on top ramen and all that good stuff. Did you find it was hard to transition from going from working for one thing and doing another, and did you change your leadership styles? Did it give you a challenge in leadership?
Yes and no. The transition was not hard because I've always said, I think if you're in some type of a sales position, I don't care if
Mhm.
it's with Payne Weber or Morgan Stanley or as a server and a bartender, which is what I started off at years and years and years ago. I think everybody should start off as a server because you learn how to read people. If you're selling, your specials and whatnot, how to pitch that to people, what to say, what not to say. And I think it kind of paid off So in regard of pivoting from one line of work to another, it wasn't that hard because it was still, in all intents and purposes, it was a sales position. I mean, you're just glorified by the title. But again, if you and letting people know that you're out there and what you do, I think that's what plays out, not so much the title, who you are as a company, but again, going everything that we just talked about before, being consistent and making sure that you're the guy that people go to when they have questions about your particular career field.
There you go. So, you guys work with banks, credit unions, auto lenders, and commercial lenders to buy charged off debt, bad debt, I guess. Do you guys end up being a collection agency, or how does that work? I know you have outsourcing you do with attorneys.
Yeah, I don't want to be an agency. There's a lot of rules and regulations that are always changing. That there's
Hmm.
no way. I mean, listen, I give credit to where credit's due. If
Hmm.
you own an agency in today's day and age, and you're doing it and you're successful, kudos to you because it's not easy.
Hmm.
I certainly don't have the wherewithal or the patience to be able to do that. So the first thing I've always done is I've always worked with these financial institutions. So letting them know that we're buying their charged off debt, it seems kind of easy, right? You know, we're coming in
Hmm.
and we want to give you money and not the other way around where most people are coming to the banks and these financial lenders looking for money. I'm not. I'm there to give you the money. I want to take your bad accounts that stop talking to you, stop taking your phone calls, stop responding to the letters. And, we go back 4 years. So it seems like, for on the surface, that kind of a pitch, man, this should be successful. But with that, they've really, since I'd say 2010, they've really started to regulate not just the collections market, but everything associated with it.
Yeah.
So with being a debt buyer, there's a bunch of states that require that you're licensed, which, we are, and we're always transitioning into the new states that are making that a law. And then we always are keeping up with compliance. We belong to a couple associations that are fantastic with letting the members know any of the recent changes in what particular states. So coupled with that, and getting back to your question, outsourcing is the proper way for me to go. The attorneys out there, they don't want to say anything or do anything that's going to put not only their good name on the line, but
Yeah.
also, I mean, these guys went to school and they got a bar membership. And
Yeah.
as far as I'm aware, maybe they're out there, but not many attorneys are going to put that at risk to collect a couple $1,000s.
Sure. Yeah. So that makes sense. And then you guys still you're still holding that in your portfolio, right? So
Yeah.
you're not selling and turning over them, just so I understand the model you're using. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we do have attorneys that we work with in certain states that either A, we don't have a good track record with, B, we don't have a good attorney relationship with, or
Mhm.
C, we've got no desire to be in that state doing any type of collections. So in that regard, we will sell to them. It's very far and few between, but certainly done.
There you go. And what states do you cover or you license in? Can you buy and sell in all the states, or give us that rundown?
Yeah, it's, we purchase nationally, with the exception of maybe, two or three different states that
Mhm.
we don't have a good track record with, but we're licensed in all the states that do require us to be.
There you
And
go.
North and South Carolina, I think right now in our industry, they are the ones that are the toughest as far as getting your licensing and what you can and cannot do. So it's not just a matter of purchasing. That's the easy part. It's the aftermath. So you got to be able to know, well, at least the attorneys for us have to know once you what you can do, what you can't do, how to go about getting garnishments if you're going to garnish bank accounts. So it's a big thing to understand. And
Mhm.
that's why we work with what I consider the best out there, the best of the best, because they're on top of things. They're going to conferences. They have their compliance people. They're always making sure that they're on top of their state laws, rules, and regs. So
There you go. I noticed on your on the signature on your email, you're involved in a lot of bankers associations and I see the Utah Bankers Association, Colorado Bankers Association, and work with a lot of banks in that regard.
yeah, you have to. And again, it's as I mentioned before, it's creating that the notion that we go to the conferences, we like to shake hands and introduce ourselves and let everybody know in those particular bank states what we do and how we do it. And it shows like yours that certainly increase that word across the United
Mhm.
States.
Yeah, and I noticed you have a website or on your website, you have an NDA on there. So
Yes.
if they want to talk to you about their stuff, or they can call you, I guess, Is that the best way for people to reach out to you that are interested in buying or selling debt? Maybe attorneys looking to work with you.
Certainly, you can go on our website. The NDA, I think, is crucial. It protects everybody's proprietary information. So,
Sure.
you work with Cherrywood, and a lot of people might want to know how we do what we do, and they want to borrow our ideas, thoughts, and procedures, and make it their own. Which is
Mhm.
certainly you could, but we'd rather work with companies that are interested in working with us in a upward fashion of being
Mhm.
responsible for what they do, both before, during, and after the purchasing process. And as,
Mhm.
again, it's all about creating the relationships with the banks out there and taking away their bad portfolios that are making money on.
There you go. Now, the callback joke on the show for years has been that I have anywhere from 7 to 8 or to 9, 7 to 9 different ex-wives. So, would you be interested in buying some wives, ex-wives, and their debt?
No,
No, I'm just kidding.
no, but I thank you for asking. No wives, no ex-wives, and they can keep their debt as well. But
Do I have to fill out the NDA to get that considered? No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, if you
Um,
fill that out and get it back to me, we'll talk.
we'll get it back to you. Wink. There you go. You built a successful company, and how does it feel to, you're what? You started in 2012, so you're 12 years down the road.
Yeah,
Is my I flunked second grade. That's another callback joke of the show.
you're doing great.
Um,
You're doing.
yeah, I'm trying to. I'm still. I can count as long as I still have my fingers. So, how does it feel to be in business this long? One thing that a lot of entrepreneurs go through is trying to get past what you mentioned, that first 2 year mark where you really struggle and people are like, who are you? And you're like, who are we? And all that good stuff. What's it feel like to finally reach that point in pinnacle where you know you're successful and you've got the game down?
Well, I'm going to borrow from some of the great sports legends out there that
Ah,
once they reach what they always say is the pinnacle of success, if you stop and look around, you've already lost it. It just, things go so fast in the industry. So I don't, maybe again, it goes back to my humble beginnings. I don't look at myself as a successful person. I look at myself as someone who's lucky. I got
there
a
you go.
couple of good breaks, but it's
Mhm.
also I came from Buffalo, New York, which isn't the most exquisite and elaborate city out there that you can think of when you think of great cities in the United States.
I think a
But it was,
cold.
let me tell you something. But I will say that if you come from humble beginnings and you have to work for everything that you have, every dollar that you have, then you're ahead of the game. So I don't ever look at myself as a success. I look at myself as somebody who's had a lot of good luck and a lot of good relationships, and I want to
Mhm.
continue to get better. I want to continue to be more successful. And the day that I stop wanting that is the day that I will retire.
There you go. So in leadership with your employees and stuff and the people who work at your firm, what sort of style do you think you use with them? How do you keep honed as a good leader and keep in touch with your employees and keep them motivated?
So I think, as I've said before, we always look for in our company for leaders. So
Mhm.
I don't want a yes man. I don't want somebody that's going to do everything that I tell them to. I want somebody that's going to challenge me in
Mhm.
my way of thinking, because a great leader never thinks that his way is the only way and the best way. That's a foolish leader.
I've
Um,
learned that the hard way.
yeah, you have to look at things as there's other employees that you hire to do
Mhm.
their job and they have great ideas. So we're always kind of spitballing off of each other, trying to hear, another way something or a better way to do something and try to, successfully navigate the widget, if you will.
Navigate the widget. I love that. Yeah, I learned a long time ago that the CEO, the buck stops here, but I'm not the corner market of all the greatest ideas in the world. I've had a few, but for the most part, you need that input from people. And
Yep.
we've had a lot of great military leaders and people from the military that come from our great military here in the U.S. And it's interesting how much they teach leadership and they teach small teams. They teach everyone to be a leader basically at all levels.
Yep.
And so teaching your people leadership and being open to their minds makes all the difference in the world. What do you, go ahead.
No, I just scratched my eye.
Oh, okay. What are you seeing in the world today? Because I think we're kind of entering possibly another. probably lots of business for you. The way the economy's going, interest rates going up usually increases with defaults. I think car sales and repossessions have been going up. I think some housing foreclosures have been going up with interest rates. We kind of see this ebb and tide with the economy. What are you seeing right now in the debt and default business?
Well, they keep saying that we're entering a recession, although if you look at some of the economic factors, we haven't seen it yet, right? So,
Yeah.
um, we're always hopeful. I don't want to say that I want our nation to go down into the dumps when it comes to our economy, but
Mm,
there's certain attributes that we want to see. So, as you mentioned, the auto sales, that's a big part of the marketplace right now. There's a big debate going on with these electric cars and if it's a more beneficial or not so beneficial car for you.
mm,
I think, especially if you look at states like California that have an energy crisis, adding cars that are going to be drawing from that probably not the best idea. So I think that there's still a big market for gas powered vehicles. I think there's a lot of lenders out there that are trying to figure out how to keep people into their loans and elongate their loans and refinance them rather than lose them altogether, which is smart for the lenders. But
mm,
at the end of the day, you're going to see the defaults are going to increase. We're already hearing and seeing that banks and credit unions are having an issue with that.
mhm.
Auto lenders are having an issue with that. And surprisingly, and this is why we've entered into the space, I'd say around 2018, is commercial lenders. You got a
Oh,
lot of these companies that are leasing and purchasing heavy equipment and cars for their businesses, vans, semi trucks. And these guys, the entrepreneurs, unfortunately, aren't making it. And they're left with the equipment that they can turn in, and the lender
mm,
can sell the equipment to make a little bit of money back on that, but there's still that deficiency. So between the auto and commercial, it's a very synonymous sector that you're seeing a lot of the same things, a lot of the growth in terms of their defaults. And we work with them and we love working with both. And while we
mm,
try to be empathetic to the fact that they're losing money, at the end of the day, if you're being offered money for an account or a portfolio of accounts that you're not going to get any money back from, why not sell them, recoup some of your costs, and boost your bottom line so you can go out and continue to do loans and stay afloat.
mhm. Yeah. Sometimes some money is better than no money,
Agreed.
usually. Especially for the work that it takes to go in and recover it. And you got to focus on what you're good at doing as a business. I know there's some interesting things going up in our economy. It's been a weird sort of like you mentioned, it's not really a recession. And I don't know if we've soft landed or not because there's interesting thing going on if you understand M1 and M2 money policy in the Federal Reserve. But I think in October, the moratorium from COVID on repayments to people's school loans expires, and they're saying there's probably some defaults coming down the wire, and people are kind of not used to paying their student loan payments, and they've probably been having a little bit more fun with that money than they maybe should have. Maybe buy some cars. And there's a one channel I love watching on TikTok where this accountant guy sits down with the young generation Z and very young millennials, I guess, at the end of the millennial phase. And I mean, they've got car payments that are like $1,500, $2,000 for car payment.
Yeah.
And they're fairly young, so they're still not making a lot of money. But even even for what I'm making, I'm just like, that better be that'd be a pretty expensive, nice car. But they're not. They're just like a Toyota Corolla,
Yeah.
2023, and the prices of cars went crazy. They went to like 140 for pickup trucks, and you're like, what? you know and so I watched some of their debts, and they're going out to eat 5 times a day at Uber Eats. It's $40 a pop to deliver you a $10 bag from fucking McDonald's. And you're just sitting there just going, wow. And then when you look at the debt crush that's coming from that, but it's been an interesting thing because basically what we've had is the baby boomers and late Gen Xers like me have been moving out of the retiring early, basically, with COVID. We're just like, fuck it, we're out, bye. And we knew this was going to kind of happen, but it's happening faster because of COVID, where they just were like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore, I don't need to. And so because of it, there's a huge glut that's coming into our job market and that's why we have this weird recession where we have high employment, but we have all the other factors, and it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
So but I imagine there's going to be more defaults and debts coming your way. as some of these different economic things. And there's always kind of this cleansing of economies. You're always, up and down. It seems like really hard to just get a smooth one for a long period of time.
Well, the funny thing was from, I'd say 2020 to 2021, and even probably in the early parts of 2022, everybody was getting their government subsidies and they paying their bills on time. I mean, I can't tell you how many of the banks, credit unions, and auto lenders I was talking to, and they were saying to me, well, our defaults are down because, ironically enough, everybody's paying their bills. Yeah. And it was tough for companies like myself out there because we weren't getting, when we're normal portfolios we were getting were between 18 to $25 million worth of charge-offs on a national lender. Now we're looking at, 3 to 5 million. Wow. And, it was devastating. I hated it. But then now, everything corrects itself within a 2 to 3 year time period. And now that everybody's back to work, now they're defaulting on their loans again, and they're not paying the loans that they got from 2-3 years ago. Lenders are now turning to companies like Cherrywood to sell their charged off loans again. So everything is kind of going back to that cyclical pre-COVID format. And it's great for companies like myself, maybe not so much for the lenders. I've had several conversations with CEOs that said the same thing. And, again, I try to be empathetic, but, you guys had your 2 to 3 years where you were making back a lot of your money and you were getting your payers and everything was great. Now we're going back to where we should have been. And, going back to our conversation about mortgages, back in the early 2000s, I felt like all these different mortgage lenders were coming out offering these insane loans, no-doc loans and stated income, stated employment loans, and nobody was checking their finances. They were buying $500,000 to $1 million houses with monthly payments that were certainly something they couldn't afford, but the lenders made it easy for people to get into these houses until it corrected itself. Everybody went back to the conventional Fannie Mae type mortgages where you put 3 to 5% down. And now we're back to normal with the mortgage market. We're going to see the same thing happen in the lenders market where you have the government that's trying to intervene and regulate a lot more with how they're going to lend this money and who they're going to lend it to. And then on the backside of it, when they default, what we can do or not do to the debtors. But at the end of the day, let's look at it like this. You have somebody that went out and bought a car or got a credit card and bought TV and furniture and, they have a nice house that they live in. And all of a sudden they defaulted on all of that because, hey, you know what? We got the stuff. What are they going to do? The bank is going to come in and repossess my TV or my couch? No. My car, but if I put it in my garage, then, I got a half a chance. So with everything, it's coming back to the point where you got to pay your bills. And I don't know, with people that when you grow up, I don't know of any parent that said, hey, go out there and try to get as much credit as you possibly can, and then don't pay it back and see what happens. Who says that?
I don't know. There's probably a joke there of ex-wives and marriage, but I don't know. It's you gotta love it. So what? How do you? People used to ask me what motivates me to get up every day and do work, and I always say bills, and they're just like, that's uninspiring, Chris. And I'm like, it's kind of not really. They come every month. What motivates you to get up every day and still do the work every day after all these years?
These surprising conversations and relationships. So it's funny because I wake up every day and, you may have something on your calendar where you've got 2 or 3 different meetings or 2 or 3 different phone calls that you have to make or conference calls. And then there's some days you've got nothing. And I'm a big believer in the days that you have nothing, you make something. So whether it's putting out emails, whether it's calling random companies, talking to our marketing department about coming up with new ideas and how we want to send the message across and give me something new, give me a new pitch or give me something that we haven't used before. And then going to, the attorneys or, sometimes if you work with collection agencies and saying, listen, I'm going to give you incentive. If we can get this threshold for this particular month and cross it, then I want to give your collectors or your attorney an additional incentive. It may be financially, it may be a nice bottle of wine, it could be a restaurant gift card, whatever the case may be. But if you're always looking to do something and increase your bottom line in some facet, whether it's something nominal or something big that's going to change your daily outlook and what you do and how you do it, That's it. And I can't tell you how many days where you start off and you got a couple of things that are working. All of a sudden, boom, out of nowhere, you get a new company or a new bank and they're ready to move tomorrow. And you got to get your evaluation together. We've got an underwriting team that is phenomenal with taking a look at portfolios, identifying the good, the bad, and the ugly, which unfortunately more often than not, there's more ugly than anything else. But they're great. And without them, Cherrywood wouldn't be the success that it is. The people that I work with wouldn't be the success that it is. And those financial institutions that we've worked with, we wouldn't be anywhere near it. So you always have to be busy, and don't take a day that's not as busy as a day to go off and goof off. So you have to have, and I think it was Arnold Schwarzenegger that said, always be consistent. Now he was talking about consistently going to the gym every single day. On days that you don't feel like going to the gym, go to the gym anyway and do something. As long as you're doing something, you're doing better than you were if you were just to sit in your couch, watch Oprah and your other TV shows, click through the channels and, drink a couple of beers and say, well, it was a slow day today, so that's what I did. No.
There you go.
Wrong way.
We've got the audience applause coming in. They love that. I used to have employees say to me, they would come up to me and they'd be like, hey, it's so good. You finally arrived and you're successful, making some money, and you can just kind of sit back on your laurels and ride it out. And what you talk about is, no, you got to still hustle. In fact, sometimes you got to hustle even more the more successful you are.
Yep. You have to maintain. You have to maintain. Once you get a good name established, then it becomes even twice as hard to keep that. I mean, it's what they always say is finding a wife is the hard part, and then keeping them is even harder. So it's the same thing. I'm using your wife dialect there, but it's the same idea with a company. When you're an entrepreneur, you establish and then you reestablish and maintain. And if you do that, there's no reason you can't be a success. But if you get lazy and sit back and have others do what you should be doing, shame on you. And it's only going to come back and bite you. You know what?
There you go. So anything more we haven't talked about your company, Cherrywood, how you do it and what you do there?
Well, I think the process. So when we work with a bank and they say, okay, we're interested in potentially selling our charged off loans, the process we've made very, very simple. And in fact, I even hate using the word process because it makes it sound, one of those things where we got to do a million things. Right. So it's what we do is obviously the first thing we touched on was we send out the mutual non-disclosure agreement. And then we send over the Excel spreadsheets with the headers of information. And then we've got one of two ways that the financial institution can put the information together. So one, copy and paste, which can be arduous and tedious at most. But if you've got an IT group that's phenomenal at it, then more power to you. The other way is they pull it out of their system, different format from what we're looking for, but the same idea, same, the headers of information we're looking for. And then we ask for backup docs for one of the accounts just to review the terms and conditions and arbitration language and anything that's going to allow for attorney fees and court costs. So once we get the Excel spreadsheet, the sample docs, our underwriting team goes to work and takes us roughly 3 to 5 business days to come back with a number. We present the number to that financial institution. If they love it, which why wouldn't they? Then we draw together a purchase and sale agreement. They sign it, we sign it, and then we fund. So the process, if everybody's on their A game, should take no more than 2 weeks, 10 days of that. And we fund quickly. We want that. We want those accounts in here. We want all the backup docs at that point. And we do this consistently, whether it's monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, biannually, or annually. We want to create that relationship with those financial institutions.
Now, since you buy debt, can I just mail you in some of my credit cards? Will that take care of it? No, I'm just kidding.
Absolutely, Chris. Anything for you, buddy.
I've got a stack over here. We'll just send you the list because
we'll buy it, but I just want you to know in advance we're going to put it through an attorney, so you may
wait. Well, I'll just keep paying the bills then. I guess.
All right, probably a good idea.
Probably a good idea. I was hoping there was an out there, but I guess there's not. Damn it! So
yeah, we're going to hold you to it one way or the other.
I'll just keep those payments going. Well, this has been very insightful and very inspiring, I think, for entrepreneurs to give them a vision of how to build good companies, how to be successful, and of course, people who can get in touch with you and work with you on both sides of the coin of buying and selling and collecting debt and all that good stuff. And I know there's a lot of attorneys out there that do that. Give us your last pitch before we go out on doing business with you as we go.
It's very simple. If you want to work with a great company, with a great team that's going to give you great results and do that consistently, there's only one company to work with, Cherrywood Enterprises.
There you go. And give us your .com so people can find you on the interwebs.
Again, www.cherrywoodenterprises.com. We've also got a LinkedIn page. You can go to Cherrywood. You can go to my own, Craig Geisler, on LinkedIn. And we're always looking for new banks, credit unions, auto lenders, and commercial lenders to work with. So let's get in touch.
There you go. Thank you very much, Craig, for being on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the time.
There you go. And thanks to our audience for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com. Join the big 130,000 LinkedIn group over there. The big LinkedIn newsletter. The thing grows like a weed every day. And also go to, what is it? The new Threads app, whatever the hell that is, the TikTok, all the different things on there on the social media. Search for the Chris Voss Show. Anyway, thanks for tuning in to everyone. Be safe, and we'll see you guys next time.